The notification from my bank app felt like a physical blow to my chest. I'd opened it expecting to see my aunt's promised gift deposit, but instead stared at a balance that made my vision blur. $347.92. 24 hours ago, it had been $500,347.92. My fingers went numb around my phone. Outside my apartment window, the November rain hammered against the glass, but I couldn't hear it anymore. Just the rush of blood in my ears as I refreshed the app once, twice, 3 times. The number didn't change. $500,000 had simply vanished. I tasted copper and realized I'd bitten the inside of my cheek hard enough to draw blood. My name is Tracy, I'm 33, and I'm a cybercrime investigator. This is the story of how I learned that the most dangerous criminals aren't the ones hiding in the dark web. They're the ones sitting across from you at Thanksgiving dinner. For 7 years, I'd tracked money through digital labyrinths for governments and international banks. I'd hunted down cryptocurrency thieves, exposed shell company schemes, followed transaction trails across 17 countries. But I'd never imagined I'd need to use those skills on my own family. The last normal conversation I'd had was 3 days earlier with my Aunt Sandra. She'd called from her Manhattan office. Her voice warmed despite the traffic noise in the background. "Tracy, I want to do something special for you," she'd said. "You work so hard and I never see you treat yourself. I'm transferring $500,000 to your account. Buy yourself something that makes you happy. A car, a down payment on a house, whatever you want. You've earned it." I'd argued, of course, told her it was too much. But Sandra was the kind of woman who built a real estate empire from nothing. When she made a decision, the conversation was over. "It's already done," she'd laughed. "Check your account tomorrow. And Tracy, don't tell your mother or Emma yet. I want to surprise everyone at Thanksgiving. I'm going to make a big announcement about how proud I am of you." Now, staring at the empty account, her words felt like a prophecy of betrayal I should have seen coming. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Emma. "Mom and I were thinking, maybe you should skip Thanksgiving this year. You're so swamped with work. We'll totally understand. Save yourself the stress." It was the 3rd time in 2 days she'd suggested I stay away. Emma, who'd never once considered my convenience before, was suddenly deeply concerned about my work-life balance. I opened my laptop with shaking hands and logged into the forensic banking interface I normally reserved for federal cases. What I was about to do violated about 6 company policies. I didn't care. The transaction history loaded. There it was. November 14th, 3:47 p.m. Deposit, $500,000 from Sandra Chen's business account. November 15th, 10:23 a.m. Withdrawal, $499,800. Destination account, Emma Irving. For 30 seconds, I just stared at my sister's name glowing on the screen. Then I started digging deeper. The withdrawal authorization had required my signature. I pulled up the scanned document. Even on my screen, I could see it was good. Almost perfect. The loops, the slant, the pressure points. Someone had studied my handwriting carefully, but there was something missing, something nobody except me would ever notice. For 8 years, ever since a case involving forged contracts nearly destroyed my career, I developed a habit. On every legal document I signed, I placed an invisible microdot above the first letter of my last name, invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable under digital magnification. I zoomed in on the signature, no dot. This wasn't my signature. It was a composite, digitally assembled from scans of other documents. Professional work, but not professional enough. The power of attorney attached to it was even more revealing. It granted Kathy Irving, my mother, full access to my account. Dated and notarized 3 weeks ago, supposedly with my consent. I'd been in Singapore 3 weeks ago, testifying in an international fraud case. I had 18 witnesses and customs records to prove it. My mother had forged my signature, stolen $500,000, and transferred it to my sister. And then they'd tried to keep me away from Thanksgiving so I wouldn't find out. Within hours, I was on a plane, and by late afternoon the next day, I was pulling into a rental car at the airport nearest to my childhood home. The first thing I saw was the Mercedes-Benz G-Class in the driveway. Brand new, white, with temporary plates. It still had the dealer sticker in the window. I checked Emma's Instagram on my phone. Posted 2 days ago, a photo of her leaning against this exact car, champagne glass raised, diamond ring catching the light. The caption read, "Dreams don't work unless you do. War self-made luxury life boss lady." The post had 40,000 likes. I sat in the car for a full minute, letting the cold fury settle into something sharp and useful. Then I grabbed my laptop bag and walked to the door. My mother answered on the second knock. Her face went through a rapid sequence of emotions: surprise, fear, forced joy, before settling on a strained smile. "Tracy, sweetie, I thought you couldn't make it." "Cleared my schedule," I said, stepping past her into the house. "Wouldn't miss Thanksgiving with family." The house smelled like roasting turkey and lies. Emma was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, and I watched the color drain from her face. "Oh my God, Tracy, what are you doing here?" "It's Thanksgiving," I said simply. "Where else would I be?" She glanced at Mom, who was hovering in the doorway, wringing her hands. A tall man emerged from the kitchen. Perfect hair, expensive suit, practiced smile. This had to be Ryan, the fiancé Emma had been posting about for months. "You must be Tracy," he said, extending his hand. "Ryan Fisher. I've heard so much about you. Emma says you're some kind of computer genius." "Cybercrime investigator," I corrected, shaking his hand. "I track stolen money for a living." Was it my imagination, or did Emma flinch? "That Mercedes outside," I continued conversationally. "Beautiful car. Must have cost, what, 150, 200? "Ryan's investment consulting business is doing incredibly well." Emma jumped in quickly. "He bought it as a business asset, tax write-off and everything." "Actually," Ryan said, looking slightly uncomfortable, "Emma made the down payment. Pretty generous engagement gift. I kept telling her it was too much, but she insisted." "Emma's influencer career has really taken off," Mom added, her voice too bright, too fast. "All those sponsorships finally paying off. We're so proud of her success." I let the silence stretch just long enough to be uncomfortable. "That's wonderful. I'm so happy for both of you." The doorbell rang. Mom practically ran to answer it. Aunt Sandra swept in like she owned the place, which, given her net worth, she probably could have. Navy dress, pearl necklace, the kind of presence that makes everyone else in the room sit up straighter. "Tracy," she pulled me into a tight hug. "I'm so glad you made it. I have something wonderful to tell everyone at dinner." Over her shoulder, I saw Emma and Mom exchange a look of pure panic. "I can't wait to hear it," I said. When we all sat down for dinner an hour later, the tension was thick enough to cut. Aunt Sandra sat at the head of the table with Mom on one side trying desperately to control the conversation, and Emma on the other, checking her phone compulsively while Ryan made increasingly confused attempts at small talk. I waited. I was good at waiting. It was a significant part of my job, knowing exactly when to reveal what you know. Emma was in the middle of describing her wedding plans. "We've reserved the Mandarin Oriental 300 guests custom Vera Wang," when Aunt Sandra set down her wine glass with a decisive clink. "Before we go any further," she said, her voice cutting through Emma's chatter, "I have an announcement. Tracy, I wanted to do this in front of everyone." She turned to me with a warm smile. "I put $500,000 in your account 2 days ago. It's a gift with no strings attached. You work harder than anyone I know, and you deserve to treat yourself for once." The fork slipped from Mom's hand and clattered against her plate. Emma made a choking sound. Ryan looked confused. "That's extremely generous, Aunt Sandra," I said calmly, "though I have to admit I'm a little confused about what happened to it." Sandra's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "Well, according to my bank account, the money arrived on the 14th, but by the morning of the 15th it was gone. All of it, except for the $347 that was already there. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "That's impossible," Sandra said, her voice sharp now, all business. "I transferred it myself, confirmed the account number 3 times. Tracy, are you saying someone stole $500,000 from your account?" "Not someone," I said quietly. "My family." I pulled my laptop from my bag and set it on the table. Mom's hand was shaking so badly her wine glass rattled. "Tracy, what are you doing?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "My job. I said, opening the transaction records. Aunt Sandra, you transferred the money at 3:47 p.m. on November 14th. 20 hours later, someone authorized a wire transfer of $499,800 to an external account. I turned the screen toward her. The recipient was Emma Irving. Ryan's head snapped toward Emma. What? That's insane, Emma said, but her voice was shaking. Tracy's obviously made some kind of mistake. I didn't, I would never. The authorization required my signature, I continued, pulling up the next document. Here it is. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Almost perfect, except I didn't sign it. I zoomed in on the signature, then pulled up 3 legitimate signatures of mine for comparison. See the difference? On every legal document I sign, I make a tiny mark, invisible to the naked eye, above the first letter. It's a security measure I developed years ago. This signature doesn't have it. This signature was digitally composited from scans of other documents. Anyone could fake something like that, Emma said desperately. You could have made this up to 2. To what? Frame my own sister? I pulled up the next document. This is the power of attorney that was filed with the bank, granting Kathy Irving, our mother, access to my account. It's dated and notarized 3 weeks ago and supposedly signed with my consent. I was in Singapore 3 weeks ago, testifying in a federal case. I have customs records, hotel receipts, and sworn testimony from 12 federal agents. I wasn't anywhere near California. Kathy. Aunt Sandra's voice could have cut glass. Explain, now. Mom's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. I wasn't finished. I pulled up Emma's Instagram on the laptop screen. And here's where the money went. That Mercedes outside, the one Emma claimed Ryan bought as a business asset? I ran the VIN. It was purchased for cash on November 15th. Same day the money was transferred. Purchase price, $187,000. Registered owner, Emma Irving. I'd spent the flight running digital traces. Credit card authorizations are public record when you know where to look, and venue deposits leave paper trails that even Instagram influencers can't hide. Ryan stood up so fast his chair fell over. Emma, please tell me this isn't true. Emma's face crumpled. Ryan, I can explain. The venue deposit for your wedding, I continued relentlessly, pulling up more records. $150,000, paid November 16th. The custom dress you keep posting about? $32,000, paid November 17th. The Fiji resort trip you're planning? $25,000, paid yesterday. I looked up at her. All of it paid for with money Aunt Sandra gave to me. All of it funded by theft and fraud. We're family. Mom finally found her voice shrill and desperate. Tracy makes plenty of money. She doesn't need it like Emma does. Why couldn't you just share? Why do you have to be so selfish? Selfish? The word came out harder than I intended. You forged my signature. You filed fraudulent legal documents. You stole $500,000 and then tried to keep me away so I wouldn't find out. And you're calling me selfish? Emma needed this, Mom said, tears streaming down her face now. She needed to give Ryan the wedding he deserves, to maintain her image, to lie, I finished. To her followers, to her fiancé, to everyone. To build a fake life on stolen money. Sandra had gone very still. When she spoke, her voice was ice. Kathy, Emma, you didn't just steal from Tracy. You stole from me. You made me an unwitting accomplice to fraud. You took my love for my niece and turned it into a weapon. She pulled out her phone with steady hands. I'm calling the police. Aunt Sandra, please, Emma begged. I'm your niece. You can't. This will ruin my life. You ruined your own life the moment you decided to steal. Ryan was already at the door, grabbing his coat. Emma, we're done. The engagement is off. Don't contact me again. Ryan, wait. Emma lunged after him, but he was already gone, the door slamming behind him with a finality that echoed through the house. The sirens arrived 12 minutes later. I watched from the window as 2 officers took statements. Mom sobbed through her confession. Yes, she'd forged the documents. Yes, she'd known it was wrong, but Emma had needed it. Didn't they understand? Emma tried to play innocent until they showed her the bank records. Then she tried to play victim. She'd been under so much pressure she hadn't been thinking clearly. She'd planned to pay it back. The numbers don't lie. That's what I tell people in my line of work. You can spin stories, manipulate emotions, create whatever narrative you want. But the numbers always tell the truth. Federal charges took 3 weeks to file: interstate wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. Mom was the primary defendant as the one who'd executed the forgery. Emma was charged as an accessory. The trial lasted 4 days. I testified for 6 hours, walking the jury through every transaction, every forged signature, every lie. Mom's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, cold, unforgiving. The prosecutor just kept showing the evidence. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Mom got 18 months in federal prison. Emma got 2 years probation and 100 hours of community service. But the legal consequences were nothing compared to what happened next. Dad filed for divorce. 32 years of marriage ended by a notarized petition that cited irreparable breach of trust. I'd never seen him cry before. I did the day he signed those papers. Emma's social media empire collapsed overnight. The story broke everywhere. Influencer funds luxury lifestyle through family theft. Her followers turned on her with the kind of viciousness only the internet can produce. Her sponsors dropped her. Her wedding venue canceled the booking and kept the deposit as penalty. The last time I saw her, she was working as a cashier at a supermarket across town. Her diamond ring gone. Her Instagram account deleted. Mom sends letters from prison sometimes. They all say some version of the same thing. She was only trying to help. She didn't understand why I couldn't just let it go. We're family, after all. I don't write back. I've made my peace with it, not through reconciliation, but through acceptance that the mother I thought I had never really existed. And the family I've built now is the one I choose, not the one I was born into. In the months that followed the trial, I slowly rebuilt my life around the truth rather than comfortable fictions. 6 months after the trial, Aunt Sandra and I met for coffee. She handed me an envelope. Inside was another check, $500,000. This time, she said, it's going exactly where I intended. Dad's divorce from Mom was finalized 4 months after her sentencing. 32 years of marriage dissolved in a 10-minute hearing. He moved to Arizona, and we talk every Sunday now, something we never did before. He hasn't spoken to Emma since the trial, and when I asked him about it once, he just said some betrayals go too deep to repair. Aunt Sandra made her position equally clear. She attended Mom's sentencing hearing, looked her in the eye, and never contacted her again. I bought the Mercedes last week, exact same model as the one Emma stole, white G-Class, premium package, every option. But this one was paid for with money I actually earned, and money I was actually given. Later that week, I drove to the cemetery where we'd buried my grandmother last year. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, and thought about everything that had happened. People ask if I regret it, if I wish I'd just let it go, kept the peace, valued family over justice. I tell them the truth. My family valued money over me. They valued appearances over integrity. They valued comfortable lies over difficult truths. I just decided I valued myself more than their approval. The engine purrs to life when I turn the key. The leather smells new. The future stretches out ahead, clear and honest and earned. I shift into drive and don't look back. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.